Seasons: A Letter to the Future is a 2023 adventure game developed and published by Scavenger Studios. It is a calm and sometimes somber experience centered around cataloging the world on the eve of some type of a cataclysm. What that cataclysm is and what will happen is not clear, but we know the world we visit now will cease to exist. You play as a young woman raised in a village up on a cliffside. You leave the village of your birth to head out into the world to document it as it's now. This involves taking photographs, making audio recordings, and generally preserving memories of the world before it changes. The game has simple yet effective storytelling and mechanics. You are introduced to this by helping your mother perform a protective ritual before you get to explore the village a bit, then pick up your bicycle and head out into the wider world. And it's after you finally get out of the village where the game truly starts to shine, as the atmosphere of exploring on your own at your own pace is really nice. The first half of the game is split into areas you travel through with a definitive start and an endpoint, while the latter half of the game is an entire valley which you can freely explore in any order you prefer, and you're able to go back and forth between the different parts of it. As you travel, you're choosing what to document. Take photos of things that interest you. Sometimes the young woman will comment on the photos that you're taking, give you a bit more insight into the world, her history, or her thoughts on the unfamiliar items. Other times she won't react at all. But the game still saves any photograph into your journal. You can do the same with sound recordings. Each audio segment is saved in the journal, and just like with the photographs, sometimes the young woman has something to say, and sometimes you just save them for you. And then there are the first time experiences the woman has. Her first moment touching a goat, her discussion with the various people you meet on your way, or her thoughts as she sits down to sketch something in her journal. And that journal is a big part of the game. Here, you are basically making a scrapbook of your travels. It's a book of memories, where you put in sounds, sketches, text based on dialogue, thoughts, or various photos you took, and of course you can put the photos as well. This is your representation of each area as you pass through it, allowing you to choose how you want to remember it and how future generations will see it. And as you progress through the game, you can always open the journal to look back on the places you've been before and see what stood most out to you, allowing you to see a visual representation of your journey and what stood most out to you on your way. You can customize it as little or as much as you like, though it does have this mechanic that after you put in certain number of memories, the young woman will reflect on the place you just traveled through, and then give you access to some extra drawings and quotes, which you can also add in. After I figured this out, I would start just putting in mandatory minimum items in the journal, just so I can then get the other designs before I started truly designing the page. I am a bit sad that it doesn't let us finish making the pages first and then does this kind of pan over the page and then talk about it, because I would love to see my entire design that way instead of my halfway point in the design process. And while each area will always get an opening in your journal, the puzzles will also get their own opening as well. These require you to find specific items, take a photo of them, or record audio. These are not overly complicated, though I did find some of the later puzzles to be a bit vague when it came to when I was able to actually do the thing I needed to do. And when you get the puzzles in the valley, that does mean you're going to be doing some backtracking. And while your movement isn't exactly fast, it isn't slow either. The bike goes at a reasonable speed, though it can be a little bit clunky to control. But the game is at its best during the moments where I found something new. I could stop listen to the sounds, take photos, and just contemplate the things I was seeing. Total playthrough took me just under 10 hours, though average gameplay can apparently be as short as 4 or 5 hours, depending on how you play the game, how many puzzles you're solving, and how much you spend exploring and designing your journal. But overall, I found it to be a very pleasant game. The art style and environment are beautiful, and the voice acting is decent. The main voice actress for the young woman is pretty good, but some of the other voices can be a little bit clunky at times. My absolute favorite aspect of the game was the sound design, as I traveled across the countryside listening to the various sounds of nature and animals, and I had a lot of fun designing my journal and sharing them with a friend who had already played the game. For me, Seasons: A Letter to the Future is worth playing. It's a relaxing and meditative game about exploring and documenting a moment in time. I loved the scrapbooking element, and I loved creating each page to represent my journey. And I found it really rewarding at the end of the game to just sit down and flip through the book to see a visual representation of my journey. So if you're looking for something relaxing, I recommend checking out Seasons: A Letter to the Future. But what do you think? Have you tried the game before, and is it something that sounds interesting to you? Let's talk about it down in the comments, and while you're down there, please do the good YouTube stuff by liking and subscribing, or checking out one of the videos on the screen right now. But in the end, all I want to say is takk fyrir að horfa og eigðu yndislegan dag.